they're not interested in me. They don't really like me that much. If they wanted to, they would. How come they don't really care about how I feel? I feel like they don't care. I feel like my needs don't matter to them. They're such a jerk. If you have thoughts like this running around in your mind, where you have a strong attraction or even a repulsion towards the opposite sex, particularly a romantic interest, I want you to keep in mind, it is not your romantic interest or partner who is necessarily our enemy. They are not our enemy, because if we paint them as the enemy, if we go even further and paint them as the villain, this makes things a whole lot worse for us. The real enemy that we face is obliviousness. And I was watching an interview by Mr. Beast, and he was saying how when he was a young teenager, he used to have really bad acne. And obviously he was bullied or whatever when he was in his teenage years. But he did not know that he should not be picking his pimples. Like, he had really bad acne and he was probably just all over the place. And he had no idea that he shouldn't be doing that. It's not until someone told him. And what fascinates me, I'm so fascinated by this, is that how is it that he did not know? How is it that all of a sudden he changed what he thought when this sudden piece of data came his way that was conflicting with whatever it is that was not there or there already? He was completely oblivious. It's kind of like, how do you generate ideas? How do you spawn something out of nothing? How do you change from A to B if B doesn't even exist? And so the problem we face is obliviousness, perhaps even ignorance, which is even worse. But obliviousness is involuntary. And so if we're trying to resolve our relationship problems, it is going to be challenging for us, because a lot of the time we may be facing obliviousness. And that is why we seek out podcasts, books, magazines, advice from friends, mentors, coaches, such as myself. We look for the answers because we already know that we don't know. We know what we know what we don't know, and we don't know what we don't know. And the part where we don't know anything at all is the most dangerous part, because you still might know certain things that you don't know. For example, me, I used to be a mechanic. I know the things that I don't know yet. I don't know how to reassemble and disassemble a gearbox. That can take quite a few years of training to master that. But there could be things that I have no clue about. These days, most cars, did you know, don't use something called a carburetor anymore. That used to be very common back in the old days. Or we just didn't know that if we leave the lid off the engine cap, that the oil will just explode everywhere. And it's not until something happens that it kind of hits us. And a really good quote that I actually heard from Mr. Beast himself, he's like, you're not going to know what goes down well or not, what goes down wrong, until you actually do the thing. So let's say you're fixing a car, and out of nowhere the car engine explodes oil everywhere. You might not have known that was going to happen, like me, until after it actually happened. So you might not know that picking your terrible acnes and pimples everywhere is a bad thing until someone actually points it out to you. And so one of the best methods that I've found to help me replicate this discovery method is to have someone kind of hold up a mirror at you, or you monitor the behavior of other people who do the thing that is clearly wrong. For example, if there's this girl and she's getting lots of text messages from guys and she's obviously clearly not into most of them or dismisses them, when you go through her phone behind the scenes, it's very fascinating, because you're like, holy shit, I sure as hell hope that I'm not one of those guys. Not because I hope she chooses me out of the lot, but because I don't want to send her things that make her feel like that make her feel like that she'd need to ignore me, that she'd just need to chuck it in the spam. And it's kind of not until you see something like that behind the scenes that it kind of twists your arm a bit. But how would you even know had you not come across that information? It's kind of like the divorces that happen a lot of the time. Divorces, they usually explode like a volcano, almost seemingly out of nowhere for the man, most of the time. But underlying on the woman's side, usually there's a lot of pent-up, compressed feelings that have never been addressed properly. And so they've been left to compress and eventually just explode where she can't take it anymore. And she might, in her way, in the way that she thinks, present how she's feeling to her husband. But unfortunately, her presentation is not effective at getting him to kind of wake up and see what she's seeing. And this isn't necessarily his fault, it's not necessarily her fault per se. It even is just the fact that obliviousness itself played a role in the picture. The wife might not have known how to convey the information in an effective manner, even if she's tried her very best, which can be, quite obvious when you look from a third-party perspective. And the guy thinks, based on everything he's known, that this is the way, that what she's saying might be outrageously stupid, not valid. But he has literally no idea how him labeling her and judging her feelings makes her feel, because he might not have ever been shown or experienced something on that same end. He's never been treated the way he treats other people. And so when you're resolving your relationship conflicts and you're trying to attract another member of the opposite sex, beware that obliviousness and definitely ignorance is our enemy, not the other party. Not until they literally choose to become an enemy, or you literally desire to perceive them in that way. But the mere fact, if we choose to perceive the other party as an enemy or a villain or a monster, instead of looking at obliviousness and ignorance itself, says that we are completely unaware of ignorance and obliviousness. And it's kind of sad, I think, because even I am subject to this, and it really sucks.